Hey, what's up guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, I want to talk about how some of our children are actually here to teach us, okay? Some of our children are actually here to teach us, okay? Now, this is going to be a very important video based on the fact that most of us, right, we don't like the idea of, many of us don't like the idea of authority, leadership, and guidance anyway, right? Most of us kind of want to do what we want to do, you know what I mean? And we all are sovereign and free and have that right, okay? But the thing is, we don't understand a lot of times why we are the way we are, why the way we are, how we are, and and how it's stagnating us, okay? So sometimes you have to be made aware of certain things, okay, in order to realize that it's an issue and it's a problem and that you can do better. Make sense? Okay? Now, because what happens is with a lot of people, I've said this before in the past, where you can get comfortable with anything, right? So you can get comfortable with degeneracy. And because that's what you are familiar with, then you don't want to make a change, okay? You feel like it's too hard, it's too uncomfortable. It's comfortable to stay in a certain state, even if that state is limiting you, okay? And it's not the best of you, okay? And the best of your potential, or it's not the best of you and you're not maximizing your potential. So, guys, when it comes to our children teaching us, some of our children are here to teach us, okay? And so you have to get out of your ego and stop thinking like, okay, I'm 54, right? Earthly age, right? But you know, my child is 14, 15, whatever, like, you know. And then so you're thinking like, I clearly know more than my child. They have nothing to bring to the table because I've been here longer, and therefore I know more than them because they're my child. And then plus you get caught into a routine where for a long time that child was not able to do anything for itself at all. It wasn't even able to formulate its own thoughts in a way that they could express it to you, you know, and make a clear argument or things like that. So therefore you prop yourself, it would have been natural for you to prop yourself over that child and then think that you are wiser than that child, or that you have more information than that child, and that, you know, your mind frame is the mind frame that is the real mind frame, the true mind frame, and then, you know, and it's for you to teach that child. And so in a lot of cases, that's why a lot of us have been stagnated, because a lot of us have been taking information and taking our perception and our form of how we perceive life and what reality is from people who are very limited themselves, and then therefore they limit you. And then therefore that's where a lot of children have had in the recent past, have had issues, and in the future, and I mean, well, now, you know, I mean, recent past and then now presently, where children are having big issues with their parents, but the Holy Scriptures say something about, you know, at a certain time that children will be against their parents and parents against their children, because not like, you know, a way that you can perceive that is like, when certain children are born here, they might be something different. They may be awakened to a certain degree, to use that word, awakened, or just aware or conscious of certain things that the parents are not. And so it's a conflict because the children are here and they're dependent on the parents, and then the parents may be so much in their ego and their understanding of things or lack thereof. And then so it's a thing where the child is in a conflict with themselves, because on a certain level they're more evolved and in a certain space, but they're trying to bounce that up against the fact of the restriction and the limits of who are supposed to be their authority or over top of them. And so it's not a bad thing from either. It's not a right or wrong or a bad thing from either party. It's just a misunderstanding, okay, and a level of ignorance, okay. So the child, while the child knows something, while the child has a lot of intuitive wisdom and understanding and talent and ability, based on the fact of just, I guess it's just a certain time where certain people will be born at around a certain time and certain things will change. Everything is in cycles and change is inevitable. And then where you the struggle that you have is, okay, the children trying to be loyal to, who brought them up and things like that, while not trying to sell themselves out and sell themselves short. And that's where I believe the story of who I call Yahushua, many of you call him Jesus, is, some of you call him Yeshua, some of you call him Yahaisha. It's different names, but whatever. We all talking about the same energy, the same consciousness and energy form that came down, and that some of us say he is back, and some of us say he's coming back and very soon. And so the thing is, guys, you get caught into that bubble, and so you can't really blame people. You got to try to work with people for where they're at, and try to have empathy and understand where they may be at, and why they think the way they think, and why they perceive the way they perceive, and things of that nature. Now, all right, I'm gonna draw this. I'm gonna tie it all in now as far as our children, because I'm probably gonna title this video something along the lines of "Our children teaches us," right? And so, or perhaps some of our children teach us, right? I think about my son. I think about my daughters, and they are constantly. It's something about them on a base level that almost even makes me feel like, wow, they're more advanced than me. They're more ahead than I am. While I know, see, my ego would tell me, daddy's however many years older than you, 20 years older than you, whatever, right? And so I know more than you because I've been here longer. But clearly they've come down here with a certain understanding, and they teach me a lot. They say things that triggers certain things in me. They react a certain way. They carry themselves a certain way that triggers certain things in me, okay? And that wakes me up just by observing them. Then I don't even always have to be talking to them. I could just be observing them and see how they act, and see how they interact, see how they move, okay? And I can tell, it's like, wow. It's like, wow, what space are they in, okay? And then every now and then they'll say little wise things, and then it's like, wow. It's like, wow, that just came from you, really? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, and now mind you, I am, the space that I'm in right now, I know exactly what I'm looking at. I know exactly what I'm perceiving. So therefore, I definitely wouldn't shut them down. What happened in the past is I probably was a child just like them, and then a lot of us probably was a child just like them. But what happened was we was in a time where your parents, okay, and people older than you may have been so stuck in a space. We were in that space where it was all so brand new, okay? And subconsciously, they understood that this is something different. And then a lot of times when people don't understand something, they fear it, and they try to compress it, they try to depress it, they try to oppress it, okay? And so I definitely don't do that with my children. I know how wise they are. I don't try to overly be controlling of them. I don't try to downplay them. I don't try to discourage them. I don't try to minimize them and their greatness. Like, because I think about when I was coming up, it's like, especially when it comes, and I'm telling the truth, I love my biological parents and things like that. But what I will say is, for all that I did accomplish and things that I've done, like, I can't really remember too often where my parents, my siblings would do it here and there, especially one like my brother Daryl will always encourage me big time. You know what I'm saying? Probably even more so than what I should have been encouraged at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but as far as my parents go, I would do things like, and now when I reflect and think about it, I would say like, dang, I never really got any type of glorification or or like congratulations to the point of what I of for what I was doing. It was almost not never even acknowledgement. Now I would get acknowledgement outside in the community and things like that, and whatever. But as far as coming from your parents, you would think that they would be glorifying you more. And so, but I was criticized a lot. You know what I mean? If I did something wrong, I was told about that. You know what I mean? But for all the greatness and all the good things that I did and all the success, none of that was ever acknowledged. You know what I mean? But it was a quick acknowledgement of what supposedly wasn't the right thing. So with your children, and a lot of times it's because it's a threat. Like, you may be a threat, but you're a threat on a certain level. But it's not to judge your parents. It's not to judge other people in that way. They just have they have a limited understanding, and it's something that threatens them subconsciously, something that they're scared of subconsciously, that has to come through. And so they're just reacting because they're not very conscious. So they're just reacting. They're like running a program. It's almost like autopilot running a program. They don't understand why they do what they do a lot of times for people of this nature. So with your kids, guys, I was looking like my son he is just, and so like, oh, that's what I wanted to say. So to tie this all in, don't contaminate your kids, because I look at my son, I said, okay, well, I was probably my son. I was probably Napoleon when I was probably younger than him, you know, and so I make sure the things that contaminated me, I do my best, most high willing, to keep him away from that so he can stay pure and be him all the way, so he don't have to make the corrections I had to make. So while I think me and him are the same, and I think that I am who I am as far as, and so, but I have to, instead of just being who I am, I have to rediscover and filter all the garbage that came through me, that altered me in a certain way, if that makes sense. He doesn't have to do that. He's made it to a certain age. Hell, by my son's 9, by his age, I already was kind of contaminated, you know what I'm saying? Like, in certain ways. And so I try to make sure that I bring him up different so he can stay completely pure, if that makes sense. And then therefore he'll be 50,000 steps ahead of me, because now he don't have a whole lot of correction. He's completely balanced, because yeah, he's great, he's good, he's a great kid, he's a good kid and things like that, but now he don't have nothing to struggle with, because he was protected and made sure he stayed on a certain path, and then have to deal with certain things that could have confused him, that later he would have to work out to get back to his original essence. All right, guys. Same thing with my daughters. My daughters, like, gosh, my daughters they some beasts, bro. Like, like, I guess they bring that feminine quality to it, where it's like they, and so they're just amazing as well. And they always telling me stuff and saying little stuff, throwing little stuff and saying little stuff. And I got and my daughters are not that old. That's what making, like, my daughter, my oldest daughter is 6, and then my youngest daughter is 4. So it's like when they say little stuff, you be like, wow, that's amazing. But anyway, guys, hopefully this was a helpful video. Peace.